You're good to go? Excellent. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before I introduce you to my guests, make sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the channel you're watching or listening to. And today I have a really special guest on. I call him my Black Card Books brother. He's like a brother to me. We've gone through this journey together in trying to write our books, and his book just came out, so I'm really excited to have him on. I'm going to introduce you to Vincent Cheng. Thank you so much for joining me today, Vincent. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Danielle. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, you're definitely my sister here on this journey. Yeah, we'll talk about how it all started and even before that. So excited. Thank you.
Yeah, and as we just before we started recording, we were talking about that first journey when we first started, and how far those 2 years seems like it's so long ago. But before we get into that, let's talk about you. You have an incredible life, and that's what I always fascinated me, because you were an engineer. And then you were an international conductor conducting orchestras, and then you went into psychotherapy. Now you're this amazing entrepreneur. So you've got quite the span of experience there. So can you tell us a little bit about your story, about your journey?
I think it all starts when I was a kid, and the feeling that I got was I got bored very quickly with a lot of things, and at the beginning it was seen as something negative.
Mm-hmm.
You never stick to something, but as I look back, it's because I was able to get to a level with something that in a short amount of time that most people might take longer, whether it be academics or sports or video games or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That I got to that point where I'm done. It's good. Like, let's go to the next thing. And now reflecting back, that was a superpower of mine. And I know you work with children and educating and this new way of, connecting, of learning, that I wish I had that, because it was seen as, oh, you're too smart, you're too fast, you're too good, you're too whatever. And this comparison between you and someone else creates this, there's something wrong with me. If I'm different, if I'm not the same, and all 100 people, 100 kids are like this, but I'm like this, that means something's wrong. And that sort of kept me to a place where I stopped growing. I recluded, I was just like being alone. So this journey to become the engineer and to started as, okay, this is the right place you should go, get a stable career, go to school and get a job and get a family, get a house, get a car, all that stuff. And the minute I think I stepped into university, at that first semester, this wave of, I don't know, call it depression came on. I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm like going like, I just didn't enjoy anything at all. But then I have to. It's like almost you get to this point of, we're conditioned that you have to do something. You should do something. You have to follow the rules. And I realized, if I'm reflecting on my life, like, no, I broke the rules. Always. I'm always bending the rules. In fact, my seventh grade, I loved this teacher, Mr. Kara. Like, he bent the rules to accommodate me and another kid in class. Like, he said, here's all the math homework for your entire grade 7. And he gave it to us the first day. He's like, you can finish it, or you can do it with us each week. And I think I finished the whole year's worth of homework in like 2 weeks or a week. I'm like, every day I'm just go. And I'm done. And he's like, great. Okay, you've joined the grade 8 math class starting today. So I was already, but he offered that opportunity and that space. And somebody else did that last year. So this sort of the rules, this, we'll get into that. I think once you step back and you say, who sets these rules? Like, who tells us what the right path or the right life or the right way to live is or are? Like, no. So when I saw that, I said, you know what? I have a choice. If I'm suffering, I'm depressed at, doing it. I know I still have 5 years. Oh my gosh, I just started.
Yeah.
What do I do? Okay, you know what? I'm going to make the best of it. And I think that's one of my traits. Like, even though I was very, very upset and angry, frustrated, I always found a way to make the most of fun or happiness, whether, it's reading a ton of books and playing games. Like, I would always be like excited. And so that was sort of my mechanism of coping, despite, getting bullied at school, not even by students, by teachers. Okay. It's like, that's another level. Like, like a teacher. And I heard from other teachers, oh, this teacher's jealous of you. I'm 8 years old. Come on. Right?
Exactly.
So I was like, you know what? That was me disconnecting from all of that mess. I'm like, I'm just going to have fun as much as I can. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So in university, I joined every club. I joined the drama club. I started going into the arts. And like, I played the piano for the first time seriously in my entire life. So I'm going to play that. Oh, here's a piano studio. Nobody. Oh, you know what? Let me just play. And every weekend, because I was at Waterloo, so every weekend I would go back out because I would have to play the organ at the churches and you know what? I'm going to learn this piece I've never learned before. So I brought pieces back, and I would spend hours playing the piano, hours playing basketball, joining clubs. I could tell you, I think I said this a few times before. I could count the number of classes I actually went to in my whole career at engineering.
Wow.
Which is, I skipped most of them. I didn't go to any of them. And it's a miracle I made it out alive. But there was, I don't know, like, that there's just something about this structure, this, like, go to lectures. And I saw through that very early on. I'm like, well, if this is the formula, okay. So I literally like took a textbook and I put it in a blender, mixed it with some sugar and water, and then drank it, and then puked it out at the exam and hoped for the best. Right. Yeah. And most of the time, well, 95% of the time, it got me through. What is that? Like, what is that? So that began this calling of, something's off here. And by me taking the time to explore what I love to do, what was fun, the arts, acting, expression, creativity, it's paved the way then on to make the choice after. I think I was working like 7 years in the engineering industry after I graduated. Oh, not to mention that all my electives, which were very few, because you were forced to take certain electives as an engineer. I used them all to either do a music course, which I can tell you the only course that I really learned something from in my 5 years, which is soundtracks and film. I love movies and I love music. That's one elective, and the rest were psychology. So at that time, I was fascinated with the why. Why do we think this way? Why do I feel this way? Why do people behave this way? Why am I not having a relationship where everybody does this? Why am I shy? Why am I all of this? And so the seeds were sown through the resistance or through the just like darkness of doing something I didn't want to do, or I did it for whatever reason that I had no idea. It was not my reason, truly. So that began the psychotherapy journey already, that began the music journey. But even before that, I grew up playing the piano, but it was never seen as something I would do professionally. It was, you take karate lessons, you take swimming lessons, growing up Asian, I took basket weaving, pony riding lessons. Like, you're going to take everything that under the sun. There was no weekends, right? And I think I really, now you've seen maybe some of my videos, I love car racing.
Yeah.
Mom, why did you take me car racing lessons? Come on.
Seriously.
So there's so much there that we get exposed to. But if you look at what is the reason for it, maybe to be more diverse, to have certain abilities, which is great. But truly, I feel like I want to be exposed to something because I love to do it, or I have this interest. And often this interest is placed on you, like, do this, or swim, or do this. Like, we don't know the why. We really don't know the why as kids. And that's where I first had the opportunity to discover my why. Like, why am I doing this? What is this for? And I think, that is the question that we can ask ourselves a lot more and really deeply reflect. I remember on our beginning, our boot camps, with Jerry leading, like, one of the most impactful parts with it was this 6-step question of, why is this important to you? And you don't ask it once, you ask it 6 times to go deeper. Why is it important and then you get to this place of real depth of emotion, like, oh, because I don't want to feel that I'm not worthy of any value or respect, or like, you get to that deep place rather than, oh, it's to make a good living. It's to, no, it's something that people like, or no, coming to that deep place of the why at your core, sort of exposed, vulnerable self. That's the key. And each time I made a huge shift, as if I made an entire life change, was because I asked that why.
Yeah, and that's incredible. It gives you, and I honestly, you touch so much on this. Growing up, you're kind of given a why, and you don't know why. It doesn't resonate with you. And I don't know anybody who said from from younger age saying, yeah, that's what I wanted to do from day one. It was just, it's kind of imposed. And then I love that you said that first semester going in and you were already in a dark place, because I've been through it too. And I was trying to explain it to people back in the day. You didn't even talk about that. And it was just like, but what do you got to complain about? You're in a good school. You're in an Ivy League, you're in a good program. You've got honors, you've got this, and it was the same later on with my job. I was miserable at my job. I loved what I did, but for some reason I was miserable there. And I was like, well, but you're making a good living. You've got, you're getting a pension, you have a healthcare, you have this. It was always that, but what do you, I felt like I was ungrateful for what I had. And it just didn't see it. We need to teach this to our children so that they know when it doesn't feel right before they make themselves sick over it and be miserable their entire life. So I love that you mentioned that, and that step, that not going to the surface, because those first answers of the why is always this, what we've been programmed to think. It's, well, I have to make a living. I want to retire at a certain age. I want my children to have a good future. You go down and all of a sudden you're going, okay, well, I want to make a contribution. Oh, okay, now we're getting deeper and, moving down. So I think that's amazing. And obviously with all the changes that you've done, and we were talking earlier before we started recording that there's still some more changes to come, but can you talk to me a little bit about some of the habits that how we're programmed, our mindset? So we have to let some of those old beliefs go to be able to move on to the next level. of growth. Can you talk a little bit about going through engineering, conducting, all of that, and where you're at now? Some of the mindset, the habits that were really challenging to let go of, kind of almost afraid to let it go.
Absolutely. Bringing in a lot of my psychotherapy studying and work, the whole concept is to bring what's unconscious, what we're not aware of, conscious, so that we're aware. Because if we're not aware of it, we don't have any power over it. We don't know what's happening. We don't know. So even if something is off, if we don't know what to do with it, we're just lost. So having that ability to look back at how our unconscious habits have formed to keep us usually avoiding pain. So some of the habits I've developed, well, I don't want to feel ashamed or upset or depressed about my situation, or even how I look, how I feel. And so what do? Well, I don't want to feel it. And I talk about this in, the basic concepts most people do, but it's in my book, Heal the Source, where the don't want mindset. Well, I don't want to feel criticized or judged. I don't want to feel rejected. I don't want. So I don't want to feel that way. So what do? Let's do things that won't get me to feel that. So let's pour myself into more, feeling dopamine things, whether partying, like drinking, or let's go to video games. Like that's why a lot of kids play that, because it's a way. It's an easy way. It's what they know. Like if I go here, then I don't have to experience this. So it's a don't want. And unconsciously, that is perpetuating a cycle that will keep you in that state, because you're just only avoiding it for a time until you have to do it again, And for me, that was one of the habits I have to be more aware of by exploring what it is I'm truly not wanting. And once I'm able to face it, to embrace it, wow, a lot of my life, I just felt like I'm nothing, I'm useless, I'm disgusting. And once I'm able to honor that truth and connect to that part of me that needed something in that place, now I don't have to avoid this don't want, because there's nothing to avoid, because if I'm truly loving this part of me that's rejected, well, now I'm no longer rejected. So there's no. So that is a habit that's formed, and it's part of the Heal the Source method that if I've seen for myself and with people that I help, that's you get to the source of what you really do want. But first we have to look at for the source of what you didn't want. And it's not, I don't want this job. Like it's much deeper than that, right? Like if it's just a job, you could just leave.
Yeah.
But the job is attached to your identity. It's attached to your worth. It is attached to expectations of belonging and all these other things. And once we get to that source, now you have power. Now you have choice. It's like, if I only want to avoid from this surface, these decisions and paths. No, if I'm here, now I'm offered maybe two choices. Either I reject myself or I accept myself. And that is that true surrendering to all these constructs that they would call it the little ego, right? That there's just like, you're just not defined, but we're trying to fit into this mold so that we don't disintegrate psychologically. If you look at every time I've made a huge decision to completely change my life, that in a sense is me dying psychologically to who I am. And it's not the same as, you would tell, it's dying. Like suicide is a very different concept in a construct. It's actually a don't want in the deepest sense. I don't want to live this life. I don't have any other choices. But this true surrender, if you look at a lot of spiritual leaders, whether Buddha or Jesus, or they truly surrendered to that sense of self, which gave them ultimate essence of their true self. And I think that's the journey. Like once you start listening and you're able to get to that true sense of who you are, okay, then you begin to operate in that place versus this matrix. We're plugged in. You got to do this, do this, do this. And I don't know, you've seen it. Now, most people have that. When he awoke, he realized that it was all made up, an illusion, and he couldn't accept it. So this is a whole journey of you balancing, understanding your mind, your body, and your spirit, and getting to that place of, can you make that choice? Because deep down, once you start listening, that's why I do a lot of meditation, exploring, self-discovery, reading tons of books. It's like, there's a call. There has been a call. You know this. It's like, you got to do this. And you're like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to give it up. What will people think? I spent all this time doing this. But once you do it, once I decided to leave my job, it was like, I had to do it. And I was given a miracle of another life because I closed that door. And so as time went on, it, took me, 7 years to do that. Then the next, it took me 5, and the next it took me 3, and now it's you just get better and better at living a completely different way. So it's having someone to explore some of these blocks with will help you see what habits are not serving you and to create new habits that do serve you. It's so powerful.
And you really do need that help, because that's one thing that I was stubborn on, was I'll do this on my own. I'm fine. that infamous "I'm fine." And to have somebody, sometimes you're just so caught up in that programming that you had that you don't even see what you're doing. You don't actually see that it's second nature. You just automatically fall into that habit. So when you have somebody call you out on it, it really shakes the cage a little bit. And then it's that decision. Okay, I'm not comfortable here. I got to move. But it's not easy. You mentioned your book, because you have a method that Heal the Source, and you also people that work with you, and you have retreats and all of that. You talk a lot about having that long lasting fulfillment, to reach that where you get to the source of what you don't want and change it into what you actually do want. Can you give us a little bit of some of the small steps people can take today to get to that long lasting fulfillment?
I think the first step is to really acknowledge with honesty of where you're at, that really asking, where am I at? What am I truly feeling, with no filter? And to even say to yourself, or it's even with someone else that can guide you and hold space for that. Because often we don't want to say those things. We don't even want to admit it. It's so painful. We're conditioned that way. Avoid pain, shame, sadness, frustration, fear, and only seek pleasure. So, but when we do that unconsciously, what we're doing is we're rejecting who we are. So if I'm upset and I tell you I'm fine, there's an incongruency. I'm in conflict with myself. I'm not fine. I'm sad, but I tell you I'm fine. So what's really happening to yourself? You're like, you're positive and negative at the same time. You don't know what's going on. And this inner conflict, I think, drives most of our illnesses. It can manifest from that psychological level, mental level, emotional to physical. And I've seen it. You've probably seen it too. It's like, well, I'm fine, but why am I can't get up in the morning. I'm sick. My back hurts. I'm feeling all this pain. And it's like we're manifesting this inner turmoil by saying, I'm not acknowledging where we're actually at. So that present moment, but that is not easy to do. We're not able to say, hey, I'm just completely overwhelmed. I am so terrified. I don't know if I can make my next meal. And I just feel so ashamed of that. And you enter in that space, you're like, who can you tell that to?
Exactly.
And imagine you do that, right? It's like, what, and why can't we say that? Well, that's the source of the don't want. Well, what am I fearing if I say that? Judgment, criticism. Ultimately, in the book, I condense. I've able to find the formula, sort of like there's only one fear, really, the fear of non-existence. And we cease to exist when we are rejected, when we feel rejected by other. And if that's the worst form of fear, let's find all different ways to stop that from happening. I will sacrifice who I am to be liked. I will stay here and do this and bend over backwards and, dive myself into other things that, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, so that I don't get rejected. But in a sense, we don't realize the self-rejection is the worst of all. And it's happening. The minute I say I'm fine when I'm sad, I've rejected me in the sadness. But we're not aware of that. So that's part of the process. If I get someone to be aware of that, wow, I'm actually rejected. And we see how often we're saying no to ourselves. And that's the first chapter. Saying yes to you. Like, how often do we say yes to us? We'll feel guilty, selfish, judged. If someone else is sad and you're happy, somehow you feel like you don't deserve to be happy because someone else is sad. And it's like, I think that's the construct of the separation, which is underneath a don't want. If I'm happy, I don't want you to feel more upset about me.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with them. It's all about how you feel. And the more you can do that reflection, the more power and mastery you have over your own emotional state. And that's really it. Can we ask ourselves truly where we're at, honestly, truthfully? And the more we can do that, this is where I'm at. Now we can begin the process of acceptance. So we're going to choose not to reject ourselves. We're going to choose to accept. How do we do that? Well, we need a model. We need someone to teach us how to do that. So what I do as a therapist or even the coach is I'm going to accept you no matter what. I'm going to invite you to accept yourself no matter what, despite all the fear, terror, judgment. And then you're in that space of called complete vulnerability. Yeah. And you're like, oh, it's so difficult. And the more you expose yourself to it, you're still accepted. You begin to trust that you can be in it without escaping it, without rejecting yourself in it. And so this whole process is about acceptance. And that's really all we want. We don't understand the concept, like the feeling of it. It's like everybody wants to be loved and wants to be, loving someone else. But what does that really mean? No. But if I say everybody wants to avoid feeling rejected, you can click it so much easier. So from that space, we have to guide to exposing ourselves to be accepted. That is a completely scary place because we have to expose the part of us we want to reject. And it's a paradox, really. So you're like, oh, I can be. We build that trust. And once you can, now you feel like you can be loved no matter what. Versus I'm going to expect rejection. I'm going to be decimated by, that's the fear of non-existence. If you reject me, I don't exist in your eyes. But we've been conditioned to build our own identity based on how we feel about someone else feeling about us. So it's this meta thinking, almost meta identity. So we lose ourselves because we think the other person has defined us. Even if I say you are the most worthless entrepreneur of all time,
Mhm.
you're like, what, why? What? So your body, your unconscious is already reacting to it because a part of you has believed it. We're just conditioned to believe others. We're that, beings that depend. But this is about you creating your own definition.
Mhm.
Who are you? What are you?
Yeah.
So I think having that boundary, and that's the training too, boundarying other people's beliefs about you versus already defending against it and
Yes, right.
being, reacting
Or
against it. And
trying to prove them wrong and trying to prove that you're worthy of their attention. And yeah, I think it's a good, and then you kind of said it too, because people will say, well, how do I do that? How do I know if I'm right? And you said it, your body, you physically react to it. You just either get that shock of somebody says something and you just physically already all tensed up and the heartbeat. So pay attention to what your body is telling you. And that's how you'll know where to focus. So that's, how would you, because I work with children, so obviously I'm always saying we need to teach children about this early on. And it's so important. It's part of the development at a certain age when they're in the primary school age, where they seek validation from their peers. They move away from wanting to please the adults, and now they want to please their friends. So that's all about being accepted, and that's part of the development. How would you say you could kind of teach children to take notice of that acceptance and that? What are your thoughts on it? I'm kind of curious to know.
Oh yeah, that's a great question, because a lot of the times, we don't learn by being talked to. We don't learn by, you read a book and we're learning unconsciously. Our superpower is unconscious. They're like, I just heard, like, we have the universe in our mind. We have infinite amount of, storage. We learn through the modeling of others, that the feeling that's created, the bond. And so if we want to teach, we first have to be the example. Yeah. So what is the example we want to do? So if I'm feeling rejected, if I'm feeling not accepted, what is happening? I'm feeling ashamed, I'm feeling alone, and all of these things. Are we, for our kids, able to tolerate that feeling? How do we process it in ourselves? And us doing it in their presence creates the learning. So the best way to teach is nonverbal. The more you start to talking, one of my other mentors says, talking is the most primitive form of communication. Like, just don't. Even as a conductor, like, one of my teachers is like, talk, don't talk, show, don't talk, show. And we show with our energy, with our feeling. Let's say I'm in the grocery store with my child and someone comes up so mean and says, you did this, you dropped this off, and you pushed me and you did not. And then some other reactions might be, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything. What are you? Yeah, because I'm now feeling stupid. I'm feeling like I did something wrong. But before I do that, I'm able to understand that I'm being triggered to a state of insecurity or whatever. It's bringing up beliefs about me based on this person. Wait, I'm not okay. Hey, I get that you're upset. Now I'm remaining in my have state. So I talk about the lack state and the have state. The moment I'm triggered, I'm in lack. I need to, something's missing. It's like, okay, tell me what's going on. Like, how can I help you? Are you really upset? Okay, I feel like you did this. No, I was here. Like, so you see how I'd be able to boundary their reaction with mine. Like, I don't lose me. And now a child observing me, like, that's different. Like, okay, that's how we can teach. And I think teachers and parents more so that, oh, you don't say this like this to someone else, or you can't do that. And they have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Because
And
they
then they
go and
see
see you like punch someone else, right? When you're triggered, right? Like that's what they see. That's what they're going to learn.
yeah.
I call it the window of tolerance. We learn about this. The more we're able to tolerate this uncomfortable feeling of the trigger, create space, now we have choice. So if we are able to do that in the energy, we have choice. Now a child sees, I have choice. What can I choose here? Oh, I've seen people choose this. I've seen people choose this. What is the result? Oh, at the end of the day, now, after that incident, we go to the car and we go home. We have a beautiful day and we enjoy it.
Yeah.
Or the cops are called and now I'm the thing, and we go back and I'm just swearing nonstop about this person, and guess what the child's going to hear?
Yeah.
So that form of teaching where we want to be like, I would expose more that we teach so much based on how we act and how we feel and how we speak based on our day-to-day versus what specifically we want to teach them.
When we're trying to teach a lesson. Yeah, that's true. And I like that you said that too, because children speak 100 languages, but there's only one that's spoken. Everything else is nonverbal. So they catch on. We, as adults, we lose that. We only focus on the verbal, the words that are coming out of our mouth, but children pick up on everything else. So even if you're trying to calm down in a situation, like you said, somebody comes and confronts you, your nonverbal will speak as well, so that the children will know, okay, so they're saying something, but their body's saying something completely different, and they pick up on that as well. So no, it's good. I like that. It's what you do that teaches the children. It's not what you say. And that can trigger a lot of adults because they're thinking, well, this guy cut me off. Like, I had to react. That's just how I am. But yeah, okay, well, then you got to have to live with the fact that that's what your child is going to do. That's how they're going to react. And to add to it even is in that situation where the cops are called or anything, they're going to even think, well, what could I couldn't do anything to stop it, so I must be horrible because now my mommy or daddy are in trouble and I couldn't stop it. So that we are adding on to that, and that's another topic. But yeah, we got to start early so that it's easier for them to be able to make those changes later on in their adult life. When I want to talk about your book, but I'm thinking I could talk. I said this before. I could talk to you all day, but before we talk before we talk about the book, can you kind of explain? Okay, first let's go personal. How do you find balance in between work, family, starting new businesses, starting new programs, writing a book, all of that? How do you personally find the balance between all of that?
That has been one of the biggest challenges, and especially recently with the new entrepreneur building a business, writing the book, and I'll of course still have my full-time therapy practice and the music, and that there's a lot of adjustment. And especially with the pandemic that happened, we were forced to change and adjust drastically, like day and night, boom, can't do this and go to this. And to really take the time to honor the change. I call it, every time we have change, we're grieving. We're grieving a loss or an old part of us and stepping into the new. And when we're not able to do that, the unconscious habit that comes in is force it and, get into this new space. You're expected. And I found myself working all day, filling up my hours, even though I enjoyed it. You get to see that the signs of your body. It's like, okay, you're reaching a limit. It's to know what your limits are and to be kind to yourself when you're setting them. It's okay to have drives and goals and reach them. And yes, but we are our harshest critics. We set these, most of the time, impossible bars. Like, yes, do this, like, no. And I'm driving through it every day, and then I'm neglecting now it's going to show up with irritation. And I think that the biggest, the next book is all about time, how we relate to time. Once you start to have an expression of anger or frustration or sadness that I don't have enough time, I never have enough time, where it'd be my relationship. And like, I get so upset that when I do have that hour, like she's late, she's on her phone. I'm like, I'm like, hold on a second. Okay. Is it there? It's a short time. And I needed to really honor that time. So I worked with another therapist of how do I manage my time by really analyzing. Here, I think I'm spending 5 hours and I'm taking a 2-hour break. But in those 5 hours, I have a really energetic coaching call. I have 3 deep, intense clients of therapy. Plus I have, this other seminar that I did. Well, each of these have a different way of reacting or engaging with it in terms of energy or emotionals, whatever. And in my mind, I said it's 5 hours. Okay, I can do 5 hours. But in essence, it feels like it's 12 on my body. So I need to say, okay, wait a second. I can't do these all at the same time. I have to do this. I have to do this. So gathering data for yourself by doing the self-reflection, self-evaluation. I have a schedule there. I write in, I put the numbers of, it's like, oh, okay. And now I look at my schedule most of the time each week and I'm like, okay, because I allow clients to book ahead of time on my calendar. I'm like, usually if I don't put a lunchtime, if I don't put a travel time, and it happened. Like I would go days, 10 hours straight or 9 hours straight. And I didn't think anything was up with that. But I'm looking at it now, that's absurd, right? Why would I put myself through that? And again, self-rejection. I'm not saying yes to me. I need a vacation. I need time. I need this time off. I need lunch. It's important to me. And so asking those questions and at the end of the day, you get to decide that you can't get it wrong. It's your life. It's your schedule. But we often don't realize we're setting an impossible prison of a schedule for ourselves. So we're constantly saying no to who we are to fulfill something. Like, I was caught into that. Like, I need to make $1 million. So what if I made $1 million? I'm not happy.
It's true.
We don't tie that together because we attach ourselves to the goals and we then form our identities to those goals and then we don't achieve it. And now we say we're nothing because we don't achieve it. All unconscious beliefs that are created. So let's be more conscious. How do I want to enjoy? I want to have an easy life. I want to be happy. I want to have fulfillment, purpose. What does that mean? Okay. Does it mean, trying to save the world 24 hours a day? No, I create that. So be aware of what you want to create and how you want to live. It's okay. You get to do it.
Yeah, and it will change. So sometimes, like you said, it's still, sometimes it can be a struggle because you find something that works and then there's some changes and then you have to readjust. So you need to keep track of how you're reacting. And I like that. I like that you said that. So let's talk about what's coming up for you. What's new, what's exciting, let's go right into it.
Yeah, something really exciting. Now that the book is out, go to healthesource.com. You can, download the first 3 chapters and even connect with me if you would like. That it's another chapter of my life. It's like, wow, it's huge. And, often we get to these goals and we're like, okay, I think I've done something, or I want to do something more. But again, it's like that the next door is about to open. And sometimes we got to close some doors. That we got to really do some reflection. Okay, what's next? And what's going to best serve the next phase of my life mission? And oftentimes our little ego says, no, that's not right. Stay here, do this, and this is what you need. And but if I look back and I'm like, no, all those times when I truly honored that voice of, you got to step into it and it's okay. And it's liberating, it's scary, but it's also exciting. And like people call it the dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Like where you're forced to really look within and say, what is the meaning of your life?
Yeah.
Because we can reach a goal, and that's it. Every time you reach a goal, that's it. Now you're in limbo. I need
That's
another
right.
goal. I need another thing.
Now what? Yeah.
So instead of going back to my old habits of just finding that other thing and going at it, or just, hamster wheeling and whatever I have, let's take a step back and be nothing. Can I do that? What's going to happen to me? Oh no, I'm scared of that because I'm not productive. I'm not this. I can't do this. And so again, it's applying this work onto myself, and and really recognizing there are phases. Like right now, I'm seeking more support and help because I need it. And then there are times where, like, you know what, I got this. Everything's great. And you call it the beginner's mind, the state of humility. Actually, my middle name is humility.
Oh yeah.
No, and yeah, that's the cool Chinese word. So it's when you're most humble, that's when you're most free. Like our ego comes in and says this. It's like when I truly surrender to it. What am I with nothing? What am I with? Am I zero? And oh, you're just you. Okay. Like, what am I? I'm an engineer. I'm a therapist. I'm a conductor. I'm a, whatever, author. Those are whats.
Yeah.
Who is a completely different question. And it's a question you'll probably never truly answer. But it's the drive. It's the process. It's the journey of asking that. That's where I'm at now. Like, who am I? Like, I've done all of these things. And when you start to ask that, you begin to see you're going to go deeper with your fulfillment, which is really connecting deeper with yourself. That's true fulfillment. We're so attached to, I'm fulfilled if I have a happy life with a family and a job and a car and all of these things. No. Yeah. Like right now, I have a house, I have the book, I have all of this stuff. Like at the end of the day, where can I take this? If it's all gone, am I fulfilled still? If I am, that's a start. I think that's the point that I'm trying to open up space more for now. Like, what is fulfillment if I don't? Like, how do I create it? How do I create it? So it's almost like this existential awakening sort of thing where, like, you're seeing the world as it really is, and you're deconstructing beliefs about who you are, what you are, and what you want to do. And I say take time for that. Like, that's why I go on a retreat every year. Like, there's nothing like truly detaching from everything so you can just be. And that's where the insight comes.
That's amazing. Yeah, I like that. That whole who are you, as opposed to like who am I, as opposed to what am I. That is such a big difference. That it's kind of it's amazing. And you have, I don't know, I think you do have the book with you. Do you want to show us what it looks like?
Yeah, here it is. One. Oh, I don't know if you can.
Yeah, there. I can see it.
It's got a nice cover, a little gold there. Heal the source and create lasting fulfillment. Live, love, and laugh. We got each of the chapters there with pictures, and it's a it's not a big thick book. It's a reference guide. It's something that even me day to day, I'm like, okay, am I saying yes to me? Or what's my lack state? Or Can I visualize? Can I use my wind journal to create some more confidence? So in essence, this is, you use this to practice. But, best way really, if you want to really dive in, to just work with someone, work with a mentor to shift those beliefs. If you want to make a change, you can. It depends how fast you want to do it. How radical do you want to do it? Some people want to take years to do it, or if you're like me, let's go 90 days.
Yeah, that's right. Let's get it done. That's amazing. Now, I do ask this question to everybody, and it's one of my favorite questions because I learned so much from everybody when I asked this. But it's a little girl that asked me this question when she interviewed me once for a school project, and I told her I would ask everybody that I interview. So the question is, what do you want to be when you grow up? My favorite question.
I think I've asked that many times. I've seen so many posts out there, and part of me is like, I don't want to use that answer, but that the answer resonates with me the most. And I think it's John Lennon who said, "I want to be happy."
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that at the end of the day, that's what we all strive to do. But we go, the first thing we know, what do you want to do? What do you want to have to be, right? Like, what do you want to be? And like, I want to be an astronaut, but that's not a being, that's a doing. That's a having. And being is an emotional state. It's, I want to be fulfilled. I want to feel alive. I want to feel happy. I want to, whatever that means. Everybody's different. But to me, I think that's what I'm like, right now, that's what I'm striving to do. And if I'm happy, then I can help others to do that too.
Exactly.
If I'm an astronaut, I can help you become an astronaut, maybe. I don't know.
No, but it's true. And happy can change too. It can mean something at one moment and it'll mean something. So there's that continuous, it's not a flat line. And there's room for growth. And I think that's amazing. That's a great answer. I love it. That's what I love this question, because we get different answers. And at the end of the day, everybody wants the same: to be happy, to be loved, to be, and it starts with you. So that's amazing. Now, how can people follow you? Because I know you have an event coming up for your book as well. You have a concert on the go, but how can people follow you, contact you if they want to work with you? How can they reach you?
Yeah, definitely. The easiest way, healthesource.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Vincent Cheng Enterprises, doing some TikTok videos too. But definitely you can reach out through my website. And I've been through you, we're connected. So happy, answer questions. If you want to work with me, just even talk. Like it's one of these things, you never know who shows up in your life, but if you feel that resonance, you feel that connection, it's like, I have to talk to this guy, or how we ended up in the same boot camp of,
that's right.
Jerry's, I have to be on this, right? I didn't know him at all, random. So you feel it, follow your gut, and this is all about learning. Like, you can't lose when you learn, when you go and seek out more curiosity and discovery of yourself. So heal the source.
Excellent. I'll put that in. I'll put that information in the description and in the comments as well when this airs, so people can reach you. And one last thing very quickly before we go, is there any advice or wisdom that you'd like to share you wish you would have had when you were younger, and that would have made your life a little easier? Is there any kind of advice you would like to share?
To be taught or to be modeled a whole different belief system around being different. I really wish that there was, even though there was accommodations made for difference, but it was done in a way that really segregated and created still that rejection state. To have a And I think this world is what we're striving for. How do we accept each other, even though we're different religions, different races, different thoughts, different genders, different, all of these things.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more work to be done, but that to me would have changed everything. Like, the fact that because I'm different, I'm not something wrong. There's not something wrong with me. That's the association. That's the belief right now.
Yeah.
Let's
You're
change
preaching
that.
to the choir. Yeah, let's change. That's what I'm working on, especially in the
That's
schools.
amazing.
That you're different is your superpower. I was kind of different as well for the way that I learned and the way that I behaved. So yeah. And then every child goes through that. So adults can relate. Absolutely. I love that. Let's change that. Everybody that's listening, let's change that. Well, thank
Yes.
you. Thank you so much. It's like I said, I could go on forever. I love talking to you. And it's so nice that when we do connect, we kind of catch up and realize we're still kind of going through the same things. It's amazing. So thank you so much. And for everybody listening, make sure again to like, follow, or subscribe to that channel. Make sure that you follow Vincent as well with all the amazing work that he does. And until then, everybody stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so